Hi, this is Walter from Yellowstone Country Fly Fishing, and this is my weekly fly tying video for May 7th, 2025. What I'm doing here is a variant on a spawning gotcha, and I call it a surf gotcha. And this is more for your kind of West Coast environments, not really, your bonefish kind of typical gotcha fishing. And the name of the game here is I want a robust profile that's going to hold up in, the kind of heavy surf, very dynamic environments that you see on the Pacific coast, especially up north. We're going to Oregon, actually on our way to Oregon when this drops. So I want that robust profile that's going to hold up in the waves, and then I also just want something that's easy to tie because you're going to lose a lot of these. And then a fast sink rate. So I have brass eyes here, and I tied some with lead as well, versus the bead chain that's more common with a gotcha. The big chain though is this is using Antron yarn for the wing and tail, and that makes it A, faster to tie, and then B, kind of more robust. Alright, so my hook in the vise here is a standard saltwater hook, size 4, and this is a fly that you can tie in sizes 2 through 6. My thread is going to be orange 6-0 in fluorescent orange, and I also tied this with hot orange. My eyes here are going to be, tell you the truth, I don't even know the size here. I think this is 3/16 inch brass eyeballs in gold with the red pupils. So I'm going to tie those in 3 or 4 turns and just X-wrap a bunch here. And I'm going to wind up using a lot of glue on this fly as well, just again to help it hold up, banging off of rocks and things. Alright, and then I'm going to finish with the thread behind the eyes. And then body here is going to be orange sparkle emerger yarn. This is an Antron yarn. And I'm just going to tie that in, and I want that to extend. I can cut it on the sample fly. I actually cut it, but ideally I waste less of it. And that way I can, if I measure this against the hook shank like that, I'm going to waste less of it. I'm just going to tie that in. And then here I'm not going to actually worry too much about making, really good touching turns of thread. And that's to get both the thread and the Antron to kind of shine through the body, which I'm going to tie in here in a second, to give it kind of a multi-tone effect. Usually you'll see a gotcha tied with a diamond braid body, and this actually gives it sort of a diamond braid appearance, even though what I'm using for the body is going to be 4 strands of orange Flashabou Mirage. And this, I think it's Flashabou Mirage. It might even just be plain orange, transparent orange Flashabou. I've honestly had this Flashabou for 20 years, so I can't remember what it is because the package is long gone. But anyhow, I'm going to tie that in just here at the back, and then again wrap it forward, not worrying too much about covering up the tail material at all, so that you can kind of see there I've got sort of a multi-tone underbody here going on. And I'm going to super glue kind of everything here, both the eyes and the thread base, and that's going to again kind of anchor everything in place, make it more durable. I've been tying a lot of saltwater flies the last couple of days because I'm getting ready to fish. Anything up to this size 4, up to a size 3/0 Clouser minnow for fishing off the jetties. So my fingers are just absolutely trashed with super glue. I don't have any lava soap to get it off, and so I'm actually struggling to tie some of my flies here because my fingers have so much super glue residue on them that it's tearing up my thread. All right, so anyway, I wrapped that Flashabou forward and tied it off, and then I'm going to advance my thread in front of the eyes after I do a whip finish here. And again, I've still got enough glue on there that's going to anchor up in that glue a little bit. But more importantly, I wanted a knot there because that is now a failure point as I advance the thread in front of the eyes. And again, you can see I've got super glue all over my whip finisher too, and so I'm trying to chip that off, but it's kind of being annoying. Okay, and I'm going to invert the hook here, and then my wing is going to be the same material that I used for the tail, except for I'm going to use a tan here. And you'll find on big clumps of this stuff, sometimes it sort of binds together and kind of forms hanks basically. And so I'm going to take my my fancy dubbing brush there, and I'm going to actually kind of brush that out. And then that's going to get you something like that, and that'll also kind of uneven those tips a little bit. You want them kind of, you know, not identical length, but not crazy either, like on a bait fish or something. This is essentially a crab or shrimp imitation. So about like that's good, and then once I tie it in, I can cut off some of those flyaways if I need to. So I'm going to go in here and just kind of slide that back, and I want that to extend basically to the bend of the hook. And I'm just going to grab that. And you notice here I'm not making particularly good thread wraps, and that's because I'm going to glue this again momentarily. In other words, I'm leaving intentionally some gaps in my thread base there so that the glue penetrates more easily. And again, I'm going to glue that. And then while that's still wet, I'm going to grab my legs here, or I'm sorry, my flash, which is going to be 3 strands of pearl crystal flash. I'm just going to tie in 3 on one side of the fly. Again, that's going to get into that glue from the bottom as well as the top, because I will put some glue on top of that as well. Like I said, I'm really aiming for durability here because it's a harsh environment. You know, much more glue than I would normally use. And I just kind of trim that flash. I like it slightly longer than the Antron wing. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish my head here, make a nicer looking head. And now I'm going to whip finish. And then final step here is I'm going to glue that again. In other words, if I get if I luck into a ling cod or something on this, I don't want them to rip it apart. Or, run it against barnacles and so on. But anyway, there you have it. There's a surf gotcha. I like the central and southern Oregon coast a lot better, but I'm going to be on the north coast for a wedding. But hopefully gonna get some surf perch, maybe some rockfish. Stretch goal is to have some rockfish and ling cod tacos at some point. But I told the other members of the house that we're renting, other people staying there, that was a stretch goal, and so not to plan on it. But there you have it. You could absolutely fish this pattern also for carp. That would be the main thing I'd use it for around here, carp, maybe bass even. But as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. I should be able to get a video up after we get home.